From the Middle is a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into episode 195 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view that's somewhere in the middle. We're a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview-style podcast, and we have tons of fun just hanging out and sharing topics that you're going to love. In this episode, we talk all about different kinds of snacks and drinks, jungle gyms in Cincinnati, Disney on Ice, kids playing instruments, all kinds of gas station sushis that'll make you have a nice night, and the Oscars. Make sure to stick around to the end because we have a ton of fun. Check it out.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the Middle after dark over here.
Kendall, I feel like I'm cringing. I'm waiting on Dillon's thoughts on the episode that almost got us canceled.
He's got this groovy grin on his face.
Oh,
that
I don't listen to the podcast. I have such a back catalog is what I mean. I have so many back cataloged episodes. I'm sure it was fine. And what you're avoiding is my response now, and then I'll listen to it in like a week and a half and be like, I have so many thoughts, and then I'll forget by the time we record again. So it's good. Did you guys enjoy it? We got some great feedback about the episode.
I think
it was fun.
It was fun, and I think secretly people have longed for us to get a little more closer to some hot button issues. So I think it was the thing that some people have been looking for from jump because they thought From the Middle was going to be a political podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean, not that we really got political. We just kind of brushed up against it toward the end there.
Yeah, sure.
What a teaser!
If somebody has like the Oscars.
What a teaser! If somebody hasn't listened to episode 193, go back to that one for sure.
Well, it's good to all be back together again. How are you guys? What's going on?
Yeah.
Fill us in.
Dillon put his name on the root beer so that the kid and wife won't drink it.
Yep. I'm drinking a dad's root beer because I record with the best dads that I know.
Oh.
And I wanted root beer. So
he's just making up because he didn't make it last week.
I just really wanted root beer. I went to Jungle Gyms. Some Midwesterners will be familiar with Jungle Gyms. And
down there in Cincinnati.
And some people won't. And we had a great time. And I got some treats next time we record in person for us to try together. And I like trying all kinds of like sodas and flavored waters and energy drinks. And they had tons of that stuff. And so a guy I used to work with said dad's root beer, in his opinion, was the best root beer. And so I saw it and they had it and I grabbed one because it's been a while and it's delicious. It's very good. I don't know that it's the best, but it was fun to go through and pick out a bunch of random drinks.
You know, so Jungle Gyms is like for those who don't know, is a big, giant, huge super store of a grocery store. And it's all separated by nations. So you can like go to the like Italy area and just shop Italy stuff and so forth. And then there's also kind of like normal supermarket stuff ish there too. I remember I've only been there but a couple of times. And one of the times that I went there, Dillon, you're drinking a diet dad's root beer. I remember specifically going to the root beer section because, yes, friends, it's not just a soda section. There is a root beer section at Jungle Gyms. And looking through, I'm like, this is my moment to see if I can land on a super awesome diet root beer. And so like, if there is a diet root beer made by a company, they have it here. And so I grabbed like a bunch of them. And that was long enough ago that I don't remember which ones I
I loved. I was
But-
trying to imagine how to describe it. We've referenced Buc-ee's enough. I think it's just like the Buc-ee's of grocery stores. Or if IKEA were to put all their stuff on one level and it was a grocery store. Because you just keep walking and it goes on forever and you're like, oh, okay, so I've left the like heavy cultural area. Now I'm just into the normal grocery store. And then you get to a seafood section alone that's like as big as a gas station, like a large gas station. And then you keep going, you're like, oh, here's the cheese wing. And there's like, it's just a massive area with cheese. And then there's a whole candy shop in the middle. And then there's a toy section. And then there's a
liquor store with a bar and a big old walk-in humidor. And
and then to add to this kind of silliness of it, they've just got, it's like they found the most unique stuff at every public auction, sheriff's auction, garage sale, and just found a way to jam it on a shelf. Like, here's an old US Navy firefighter truck. Let's find a place for that in our store. And here's an old cooler that has a weird Japanese logo on it. Let's just shove that into a corner of the store and throw something in it. And it's bizarre. It's awesome. Very cool.
I heard Jungle Gyms is essentially Buc-ee's meets IKEA meets a garage sale meets Epcot.
Yeah,
that's a good way to describe. Yep.
Gyms. Yeah,
wow.
That's probably accurate. Well, and it's weird too because you walk in and they've got like little tiny shops right when you walk in, and then there's like a little movie theater with like the story of Jungle Gyms, and then you got to go to the bathroom and it's a porta john against a wall, and you open the porta john and it's like Willy Wonka and it opens up into like a big bathroom, and then you're just fun. Yeah, it is. It's just bizarre. It was a silly enough experience that we were already in Cincinnati taking our daughter to Disney on Ice. They did a Disney on Ice that was Frozen and Encanto themed. We're like, she'll think Jungle Gyms is fun just because, and we had never been there. Let's just go find a Jungle Gyms and walk around for a while. So yeah, cool. Anyways, that's why I bought root beer. That was the story of root beer.
Well, speaking of pop, and then I want to hear about what you thought of Disney on Ice / Encanto on Ice / Frozen on Ice. Sherry and I took the kids, and I may have mentioned this last episode, to visit Dillon and I's cousin in Maumee, which is a burb of Toledo? And they had an old timey soda / candy shop. And I posted about this on our Instagram, but they have what our dad used to reference when we were kids pretty regularly, Kickapoo Joy Juice, which he remembers. I don't know if this is accurate, but he remembers it as the precursor to Mountain Dew. Not necessarily that Kickapoo Joy Juice became Mountain Dew, but it was the yellowy citrus soda that preceded the popularity of Mountain Dew. And they had it there. And so I grabbed a couple for us to try. But they also had these like taste like bacon, taste like grass, taste like dirt, all those pops that I almost bought, but there's no end to the novelty pops you could have purchased. They had like 6 or 7 different types that were different types of hot sauces. So ghost pepper, jalapeno, like buffalo sauce, bacon, like so many. And I was like, where do I stop with these? But I think it'll be fun to pick up some of those. There's one specific company that makes a bunch of them, and pick up these sort of like novelty, gimmicky, you try with your friends for a laugh type pops.
I love it.
That's interesting.
They had quite a section of Liquid Death too. You should know. Just flavors. Yeah, flavors I didn't even know were out.
And I didn't know that Liquid Death branched out.
They have the flavored ones, but they also have a tea now. They have 3 different flavors of tea, not flavored water, but actual Liquid Death tea. So I'm excited to try those. They had some candies that I haven't seen in such a long time. Do you remember like the cream savers, the Lifesavers hard candies that were like some fruit flavor mixed with like cream? So orange and cream, raspberries and cream.
Berries and cream.
Oh, so good. And then you remember the sweet tarts that were like $half size, but they were chewy?
Mhm.
They would come in a strip of 4. Like it's hard to find some of those things. Charleston chews, or you can't always find Charleston chews. And I was excited about, so it seems like Sour Patch Kids, it's hard to buy just regular Sour Patch Kids now. Every time I go to the theater, they're Sour Patch, not so sour watermelon flavored, but I found Sour Patch Kids, not so sour peach flavor, and peach is my favorite. Also, have you guys tried Nerds gummy clusters? Those are freaking life changing. Little
No.
tiny, not the full size Nerds, smaller Nerds shoved around a gummy that it is very small, like the size of a peanut. So you eat it and you get the crunch of the Nerds on the outside and then the gummy on the inside. Oh, forget it.
Yeah. It's like a bite size, like the Nerds rope is that,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
a rope.
Gummies, little gummies instead.
You jogged a memory. What is it? What do they say in the Pixar movie when there's like a memory unlocked or core memory?
Yeah,
core,
yeah.
You jogged a core memory. Wasn't it the cream savers that had this sort of like blank faced medieval minstrel that would go medicine cream outside of like the carry out and talk to the little kid? I don't know, YouTube it now, we'll share
Have to find it.
but I'm pretty sure there was like a medieval minstrel that was almost a little creepy looking. And also it's funny that you talk about trying stuff. So I've never watched a reel and then gone and made the thing, or we've never like made the thing that somebody made in a reel. But Bree did it for the first time, and somebody said, "Go to Target," and I'm sure these are just plants by like Target marketing people to go to your shop there. But they said, "Go to Target, get normal fruit roll ups, and then get the Target brand sherbet." It's like orange, yellow, and green, or orange, red, and green, or something like that. And take the fruit roll up and go 1 scoop across all 3 colors of the sherbet, lay it in the fruit roll up, and roll up the fruit roll up around it. And the fruit roll up, when it's that cold, it just like easily snaps. It crackles and like falls apart when you bite into it. It's not chewy at all anymore. And so you can bite into it and it just snaps off like a light, crispy, and it 100% works. And it's like crunchy, soft, gooey Skittles. And I don't know, it was so good.
I'm a little concerned that fruit roll-ups are changing their natural properties so easily.
But think about a fruit roll up, how you can like take a bite and you sit there and gnaw on it and it's stuck in your teeth. And as soon as it gets cold, it becomes brittle, like a thin sheet of ice. It becomes brittle that you can just bite and it'll crack and fall apart into pieces. It's bizarre, but delicious. So if you want something to go try, and if you like Skittles, go try that. It's really good.
Man, you guys have candy hacks. This is fun.
The only one I've ever had, right there.
You know what's funny is we have locally a candy store that is, it's one of the fun kinds of candy stores. So kind of like what Kory, what you were talking about. It has like stuff that you can't find anywhere. It has stuff that you thought had been discontinued or whatever. It's the place where I got like they import from England and other places, and I got those crazy Kit Kats for us to try and stuff. And they recently moved locations into a larger location, and it's a big, wonderful, huge, impressive store, and I love it. And I'm but there's a couple who owns and runs this place. I have never seen another employee there. It's always one of those two. And like just from talking to them, like you can go in and the wife is like, man, like I'm happy for her because it seems like she is in her dream job, and like she's talking about the candy and like talking to kids and is happy and chipper and everything. Her husband, on the other And sometimes you walk in, it's just him there. Like he'll nerd out a little bit in a very calm manner about like the importing of things and that kind of stuff. Like you could tell that he likes the business and he likes running a business and he likes the logistics and that kind of thing. I have a feeling that like he could care less if it was a candy store. And not only that, I think that he is not the person you expect to encounter when you walk into a candy store, especially with kids. Because you walk in and like as the moment kids come in the door, he's like, guys, I have one rule, and that's if you take something, you decide you don't want it, you got to put it right back. It's like it didn't start with a hey guys, glad you're here. Have fun.
Yeah. Welcome.
Like wasn't I can understand having the rule, but like those are his first rule to children coming into his candy store.
Yeah, there's no, he doesn't sit at home reading books about Disney white glove service and how to
right
take his business to the next level. He could have a placard when you walk in. If you pick something up, please put it back. No,
Yeah.
it's a verbal dress down to youths as they walk in the door. All right,
and
kids,
I was there with somebody who was from out of town, and they were buying a whole bunch of stuff for their family, like stocking up, and like literally a basket filled with like well over $100 that ended up being of candy from this place. And in the middle of shopping, basket's already like pretty full. You could see how much they're buying. My friend like picked up a thing and like went to try to open it a little bit so we could see what was actually inside. It was a novelty item. It was a Dundee Award, actually, shaped like a Dundee Award. He was trying to see what the Dundee Award candies looked like. And in the process, he accidentally ripped the packaging open. So now there's like exposed candy. And the dude, the shop owner guy, was in the area in the vicinity when that happened. And like kind of saw it, was like, what happened here? And you could just see like the wheels turning in his head, like, everything inside of me wants to make you pay for this. Everything inside of me wants to make you pay for this. Like you could see that he was right there on the edge. And which, if you ask me, like I think that maybe he was pausing and giving my friend the opportunity to offer to pay for it. I don't know. In the end, I think he did realize how much money they were about to spend, and he just took it to the back. But because frankly, like my friend did like he screwed it up. Like it was just, it's one of those things. It's a tense situation when you're in there with him. It's a delightful situation when you're in there with his wife, and it's funny, and I love the place.
Yeah. The backstory that the wife hands out free candy all the time, and he's just trying to balance the books because she's constantly like, here, take this, try this. And he's like, we got to charge these people something. We got to charge them for the candy.
I think there's one in Columbus, and I know there's one in downtown Indianapolis at Monument Circle, but the franchise of these type stores is called Rocket Fizz. And they have a lot of these old time, you thought they were discontinued pops and candies. There's nothing, I mean, there are things. Candy is one of those really nostalgic things. Like, because you're taken back to that time when you were a kid, when you first tried wax bottles, wax soda bottles. And you remember when you first tried to shove the fake wax lips in your mouth, and they're like, this is disgusting. While we might have the candy hacks, I can tell you a story of somebody that doesn't have a candy hack. Dillon, do you remember when we were small children, our Sunday school teachers used to make their own fruit roll-ups? Do you remember this?
That's such a Sunday school teacher thing to do.
I might have blocked it out on purpose.
These Sunday school, I brought this up, by the way. Okay, this is crazy. I was asked to be a groomsman in a wedding. One of the groomsmen had married into the family that I'm describing in this Sunday school story. And I brought this very thing up with him, and he was crying, laughing about them making their own because they made him try it too. And anytime somebody starts their pitch to you about the thing they make with, it tastes just like, it almost never does.
That is always a mistake.
Almost
try to
never
sell it as
does.
something else. Yeah.
I've only been surprised by that, pleasantly surprised by that once, when my sister-in-law got her own ice cream maker and found the recipe for Wendy's Frosties. And she said they taste just like Wendy's Frosties, and they actually did. You would not be able to discern a difference as a Frosty connoisseur. They tasted exactly the same, and it's only 3 ingredients. Anyway, back to the make your own. So these Sunday school teachers were wonderful, amazing, salt of the earth people. They knew scripture. They loved kids. They were genuine articles, awesome people. And they were kind of hippie-ish. And they would make their own fruit roll-ups that they were purple and they were grape flavored, and they rolled them in wax paper and everything and handed them out to all of us. Absolute garbage. Not even, they didn't just not taste like regular fruit roll-ups. They didn't taste like a candy you were familiar with.
Yeah.
So not good. Love them, did not love their homemade fruit roll-ups. Don't even
Wow.
Oversold that one a little bit. I don't really remember it. I probably blocked it out. But that's a very nice gesture.
So was Encanto / Frozen on Ice, was it good?
It was such a good show. I will say my daughter was probably more excited to stay at the Fairfield Inn than she was to go to the show. But once she got to the show, so Mickey and Minnie and Goofy and Donald do the introduction. Didn't know that at the time. A little bit of backstory. Didn't know if we were even going to get a go. Brie ran to like a clinic till she was feeling sick to get some medicine. They said, yeah, you can go. Just take this medicine. So we're like, I don't want to say racing down to Cincinnati, but we're going as safely as we can get to Cincinnati. And I know where it is. All the main stuff is right along the river in Cincinnati. If you're going to a stadium, you're going right by the river. And normally I just will pull up directions on my phone, kind of set my phone off to the side, and I navigate because it's something I'm good at. And my wife would probably say it's not her strongest thing. Is navigating. But because it was Cincinnati traffic and we were a little busy, I said, could you pull up Heritage Bank Center on your phone and get directions? It's great. She's saying it's this far and we'll take this exit. So we get down to right about where I know we should be pulling off, and it's saying go this way. And I'm like, well, maybe there's traffic and it's rerouting us to like bring us back to the stadium another way or something, like maybe because I knew it wasn't like get down to the stadium and then drive around a bunch. It was like get right off and you're right there. And so we're like crossing the river into, I think, like Indiana or something, or we're driving up in neighborhoods, and I'm going, this really feels like a really odd way to get back to the stadium. So I look at her phone, and in the middle of some suburb where we're driving to, it says Heritage Bank Center, nowhere near downtown Cincinnati. So now I'm like, why would you name anything the same thing as the name of a stadium? Anyways, separate issue. So I'm like Googling back now, and it says we're going to be like 20 minutes late to the thing. So now I'm like trying to, and Cincinnati, if you're not familiar, is very hilly. There's a lot of traffic. Whether they're good or bad is just traffic, just depends on where you are from in the country and whether you think Ohioans are good drivers. So we're cutting some time off. We get back to the parking garage. Finally, we're circled back. I don't care how the show goes. I just don't want to be late because my brain, that will start to ruin the show if we're late for any considerable amount of time. So we like finally actually, I think it maybe almost helped because by then so few cars were parking that like it almost we would have just been sitting there probably anyways. So I pull into the garage, the guy's taking money ahead of time. And I'm like, if I park in this garage, what's the fastest way into stadium? He's like, go straight up to 5, and there's a direct walkway right over to a side entrance of the stadium where they can scan your tickets. I'm like, awesome. So glad I asked you. Straight up to 5, and it's true. Walkway right over, no line. Guys are scanning tickets. You walk right in, super fast. Get into the arena, and it's like Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Goofy are talking for 10 seconds and disappearing as the show starts. So now this last 2.5 hours worth of anxiety and frustration can disappear because we're in time for the show. So I don't really care what happens at this point. I'm just like, my family has arrived.
I did my job.
I did my job, just whatever. So now we're balancing out the show that is pretty darn magical, if I'm being honest. It's really good. The music is good. The ice skating, they're very talented. It's really good. I'm balancing that out with the amount of things on the floor that are making my shoes feel sticky. And the amount of money that I paid for a light up wand. Those kind of things are balancing out the magicalness. Because you go out to the concessions and it's like, do you want a wand? $45. And you're like, oh my God. Like, that's more than the ticket. So that whole thing factors in. Very good show. Instead of just having a bunch of princesses and whatever the whole time, it was a focus on those two shortened versions of those two in about 2 hours. And for Encanto, they literally lit a ring of fire on the ice. That was freaking cool. And then only with like some little triangle-y straps that they like put their arms through and hung up to. Elsa and Anna were like flying around the arena with ice skates on, like on these big things, like singing and like doing Cirque du Soleil moves. It was crazy.
Wow.
Super impressive. And then at the end, like just to make it even more magical for my daughter, they brought out like, not for just her, but everyone in the arena. They brought out like 5 more princesses. 4 of them were paired off with their movie counterparts, and Coco ran out, and all of them were like dancing with Mickey and the Frozen and the Encanto cast. So like she was blown away and super excited to go to Fairfield. So it went really well. We had fun at the hotel. We got to go out to eat. We had a great experience going out to eat. Stopped at Jungle Jim's on the way home. Went to Kenwood Mall. Had a nice meal at Maggiano's. If anybody knows Maggiano's, it's like Buca di Beppo, but I think better. It's very good Italian. So if you want Italian to eat in Kenwood or in Cincinnati, it was a great trip. I jokingly say often, there's only 2. Magic's not real, but there's 2 things in the world that are magical, and Disney is one of those things, and magic erasers are the other ones. So those 2 things are somehow made of magic in a world that magic doesn't exist. And so freaking props to Disney, because it was a really, really seriously good show. The tickets were actually pretty reasonable. The merch was not. Take your own light up wands. And it was even as an adult, it was very, very cool. I thought they did a really nice job. The costumes and the music and the light show and all of it was a ton of fun. So hopefully that's something she'll remember for a long time.
That's cool, man. Well, I'm sorry that you had to, give up streaming TV and movies to go do something with your family, but I hope that it was.
I know.
Sounds like it was probably worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Every now and then you somehow can go, they're not too bad to spend time with, It's not too shabby.
I got to FaceTime with her while I was about ready to board my flight, and she was so excited to show off her light up wand and the tchotchkes that she got at Jungle Gems.
Fun.
Yeah. All of it. She found all kinds of. She found these really cute piggy banks at Jungle Gyms and pens and squishmallows and all kinds of fun stuff at Jungle Gym. So it was an extension of her 5th birthday that was kind of her main gift was this whole weekend. And so
Yeah,
it was
cool.
It was fun to get to go celebrate. And
Yeah.
You don't have to
do
justify it. You're allowed to spoil your kid.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
No,
Mandalorian
I
can wait.
know. I mean, it was just like, well, that's why all the extra tchotchkes, because it's like, all right, this is kind of like an extension of your birthday. It's cool.
Gotcha.
But no, it was a good time. It was a good time.
Speaking of good times, this feels like a good time to take a break and hear some words from our friends in Odd Pods Media.
Hi, I'm Sam.
I'm Richie. I'm Little Matt.
And here in the 500 Section Lounge, we are three dads who host a family-friendly weekly podcast.
Yep, we laugh, we go on tangents, and we talk to great guests.
Tangents? I don't know what you're talking about with that. You know, there are gases leaking.
All right, okay.
Yeah, we have legendary conversations from sports to history and everything in between.
So be on the lookout for what we do next.
And always be there to
Grab a listen.
You're right, Kory. That was a good time to pause, to listen to that particular podcast talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kendall, what's going on with you, bro?
It's been a good week. Been a very musicy couple of days with the kids. We're trying new things. They're taking piano lessons and they're getting ready for this recital. And the piano teacher, who also teaches like drums and all of the instruments, I guess does this thing. I don't know if she does it every year, but she's doing it this year for a spring recital, putting all together this whole thing where the kids like each have an instrument of some kind and they're doing like an actual song that she's putting together for them. I'm curious to find out what it's going to be. I've got 3 kids enrolled in that. Well, one of them is playing a tambourine for that song. One of them is playing a guitar for that song. He does not play guitar. And then one of them is playing a violin for that song. He doesn't play violin. The tambourine player, though, is a professional tambourine player. And so that's all going on. So on top of their piano stuff. And so it's real simple, really simple stuff. I think like on the violin, it's like 2 notes and it's just like a back and forth kind of do kind of thing. But this has sparked in them joy. And now the violin player, like they've been going over this for weeks now, and he really wants to play violin. And so we've talked to him about it and talked to him even about different options and things. And he has settled on wanting to play viola. And so we surprised him kind of. My wife has been keeping an eye open for a used violin that can be restrung as viola. I guess for younger kids, like it's a good idea to do it that way. And yeah, she found one, and she's a proficient cellist. And that's to say it mildly, proficient cellist. And she also knows a lot about generally stringed instruments, violins, like 'cause she used to work at a violin shop and those kinds of things. So I very much trust her in finding a good used one, and then knowing that she can treat it the way it needs to be treated once it comes home. So we found that for him, and he's going to start learning how to play this thing now. And beyond this recital, and then the boy with the guitar part wants to actually play guitar. The guitar that he has is we got for him, or his grandparents bought for him. I don't remember how he got it, like a year ago, but never really got into it. But now he really wants to get into it, and so like bought him a case and things so that he can take it back and forth between there and lessons and whatnot. And that was all exciting. And the tambourine player like legit wants to be a percussionist. So we've got the electronic drum kit, and I'm getting her own sticks that are appropriate for her age and size and stuff. And a friend of ours threw in a practice drum pad, and getting her a fancy stick bag so that way she gets a cool thing too, because her brothers each got cool things. She picked out a camouflage patterned stick bag.
Girls can't like camouflage.
No, she do. And so that's all good and fun. They're getting interested in stuff that I'm interested in. My wife, however, is not interested in stuff that I'm interested in, because I recently tried yet again to get her into professional wrestling. And that is falling quite flat. I'll try again in a month. And we'll see how it goes then. This time I took a little bit of a different angle because I had just finished watching Young Rock, starring Dwayne Johnson in his early life, and which is a phenomenal little series. You should check it out. It's funny. It's very tongue in cheek, and I like it. And as Kory and I were talking, I don't think it was on the podcast. I think it was after we were.
Yeah, it was after we recorded. We hung out for a bit.
We were talking about The Rock and what made The Rock such head over heels, like better than, in my estimation, he just really stood out. He was like the best of the best of the characters. And I was telling my wife about that, and she asked me why I thought that was, like, what was different about him. And I think that it's a clear answer that he's better at acting, and beyond that, far better on a microphone than I think any of his peers have been since or was before. I think that he is the one who perfected that art. You just have to think of like how many catchphrases he has. And the fact that he gets on a microphone and starts going through a spiel that knocks your socks off, but the audience was able to say half of it. Mm-hmm. It got everybody involved. Wonderful at thinking on his feet, ad lib jokes, which current wrestlers are so bad at. He was good at, and those kinds of things. And so I'm telling her all this, and she's like, "I want to see some of that." And so I'm like, "All right, cool. Tomorrow night, I'm gonna find some stuff. I'm gonna show you some stuff of The Rock on the microphone." And so I'm looking through now during the day, trying to curate some kind of list, right? And I'm hoping to find on YouTube like
The Rock's best mic moments.
The Rock's best mic moments. And particularly, I'm looking for the quick rhyming introduction of myself, like I'm the brony, jabroni beaten eyebrow raisin pie. Like, I want to find that over and over and over again, and the different versions of that, because I think that's really impressive. I couldn't find that. And so I was like, okay, what I'm going to do then, I'm going to single out what I think is his single best mic moment, and I'm going to make her watch that in its entirety. And so that for me is, I think it was 2011, his comeback cameo, whatever situation at the Bronx, New York City. And I thought he was spectacular on the microphone during that whole thing. It's like 10 minutes long of him ranting and raving and making fun of people, and I loved it. And so like I'm making her watch it that night with me, and I'm like, watch this. She does not understand a lick.
Oh,
like she's asking me questions like, why was that funny? I don't understand. Oh. What do you mean, why was that funny? What is there to get? Like, it just is. It fell flat. It was I thought that this might have been my one for who doesn't love The Rock. And if you could see him shining in a moment that but it just didn't compute with her. She didn't quote unquote get it.
We've talked about that before. Like when you try to get someone to get why you like something or what it is about something that you like, and it just falls flat.
Yeah.
So
that's all right. I'll try again. I love her anyway.
And with sports entertainment / pro wrestling,
right.
In particular, I too have tried to get Sherry to appreciate my appreciation of it multiple times. The first when we were dating in high school, and I was obsessed then. And then when for the podcast a couple of years ago, I decided to start watching again. I was like, babe, come on, this is great. And she's like, I don't understand why you like this at all. I have a question about your musical children. You've shared on the podcast before your disdain for like teaching children, or how you could never teach children. Does that go out the window when it comes to music and something you love?
I think even more specifically, it's other children. Like I'm cool with mine.
Oh, okay.
And I do plan on working with them very closely with these things. I have offered to them before, but I expect them to be the ones grabbing a hold of it. And so if they're not grabbing a hold of it, like I'm not going to make them come sit with me and learn guitar.
Sure.
But if they want me to do it, I am happy, more than happy to do that. I do think there's something to having someone else get them started at the very least. Maybe our experience has been like I've both my wife and my wife more than I think I tried to like sit and kind of like plunk something out on a piano for them to try to like get them to understand some basics here. Never mattered. We send them to a piano teacher and like they just become the greatest little students you've ever seen. And I don't understand why. Obviously the piano teacher knows what she's doing. But like just the fact that they're willing to pay attention and listen to her in ways that they're not willing to pay attention and listen to us. And I think there's something different about that.
Speaking of kids getting into new things, and I wonder if what you just mentioned is more of a, like, I draw cartoons for a living and my kids are into art and creating, yet they'd rather watch a step-by-step tutorial on how to draw an elephant from a YouTuber whose skill level is not the same. And it's like, okay, well, it's just not, is it just like a dad can't be teaching me something cool? There's no way dad could be teaching me something cool.
Maybe they're still young enough that I think I'm still pretty awesome to them.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's faded yet.
Yeah, it's faded with mine. Speaking of kids learning new things, spring is like one of the busiest times of year, and you know how much I hate that word, but it's just a very crazy time in the Hubble home, and all three kids are each deciding to pursue something totally different than that they've done before, similar to yours. So like Chloe, who's been doing the baton and dance thing, the middle child, she's decided, now she has been playing cello, but she's decided to take private lessons and quit baton and twirling and dance altogether. So that's one. Lily, the oldest, who will be driving in a matter of weeks, she's decided to try softball. So she's going to try softball. That's the only thing that I was decent at baseball in school. So I can teach her some baseball, softball skills. So I'm excited about that one. And then Case Man, he's decided to, he's played soccer before, but he's played it through Upward, and I'm excited for him to play it through the school and like learn soccer in a different way.
Yeah.
But this was the funny thing from today. So I'm in Seattle for work, and Sherry and I use Marco Polo to send messages back and forth because it's the best way when you're in different time zones and you can't connect on the phone or FaceTime. Just send pre-recorded messages onto this thing. It saves them all, and you can catch up on your spouse's day, and it's great. So she sends me a Marco that Case has been saying for a while that certain things are hard for him to see across the room or different things. And I was like, I don't know how, I'm not saying he's lying, but like we should get him in for sure to get seen, but not sure how serious it is, put it that way. And their eyes are changing a lot when they're young. You can almost do that too soon. So Sherry sets up a appointment with our optometrist, and they're headed into the office today. And just as a little test before they leave the house, Sherry looks over to the stove and says, Case, what time is it? And the way he answered the question, she knew he was pretending like he couldn't read it because he really wants glasses.
Oh, Mom.
So now she has to explain to him, who's about to go get his first eye test, buddy, you can't, I understand you want glasses. You can't like lie like that, though, that you can't see things just because you want glasses like your sisters have and some of your friends have. So she's explaining how serious it is that he needs to answer truthfully when they're saying number one or number two or number three,
right?
Number three or number four, right? So he goes, and the optometrist basically discerns that he's right on the brink of needing glasses or not, But what's interesting about his vision is that the ability to switch between distance and close, that muscle is kind of weak in him. He doesn't switch between the two very well. So he can see okay distance, he can see okay short, but like switching betwixt the two is problematic. Like whatever muscle, his just functions slower, and so he actually does need glasses, and that they might help with that muscle anyway. So he's going to get glasses today. So everybody's trying something new in the Hubble house. It's an interesting time, and spring is fixing to get crazy because all three of these things, soccer, softball, and private cello lessons it's getting crazy. But luckily that oldest one is going to be able to drive. So yeah. Speaking of driving, I know last week I complained about drivers. I had a positive highway experience I couldn't wait to share with you guys.
Oh, no way.
So on the way to the airport on Sunday, it's midday, bright outside. I'm in the middle to right lane on the outer belt of Columbus, also known as 270. And a car comes up alongside me on the left, and I notice it in my peripheral vision. And normally if a car comes up on your left, over your left shoulder, they're going faster than you, and you expect them to pass you. Mm-hmm. This car was sort of staying on my back left side and went from being in my peripheral vision to matching my speed and just hanging out in that back left side.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, this is where I will pause and tell the listener, I don't have a fancy car, but I have a car that is a unique color and a unique shape. There's not a lot of my car out there. And so I look over, I'm like, what is this car doing? But I don't look, but I've now registered something funny is happening. And I look over my left shoulder, and there's a guy mid just shit-eating grin wave, so excited because he's driving the same car as me.
Oh.
And
love it.
Once I wave at him, I'm just like, hey. Once I wave at him, he then continues to pass, and I can look and see he's got temporary tags on, which means he just got this car, and he's very excited to see another one out on the highway. He was just like...
That's awesome. I love it.
So I was like, well, I complained about drivers last week. I have to share when the good things happen too.
You know, I've often thought about motorcyclists and how they do the like little arm out and down peace sign thing to each other. And like I want to adopt that for Chrysler minivans. I want every time I pass a Chrysler minivan, I want to roll down my window, give them a peace sign, and I want to be able to expect one back. So
there's like a bald guy thing. There's like a nod sometimes, like bald guys.
Really?
Yeah, there kind of is. I've noticed it anyway. There's like, Jeeps have their rubber ducks, which is annoying. They duck each other, I guess. So there's these like little secret languages for things. I wonder what other things there are that I'm not aware of because I'm not a member of that community. Interesting.
Here's a random, really quick question for you. Speaking of travel, on our way down to Cincinnati, we stopped at a gas station. I was going to grab something to drink, and I was looking at the snacks, and they had a variety of things in this cooler area, one of which is sushi. And the question is, how cheap is too cheap for gas station sushi? Like, at what point does the price go too low where you think, oh, it's probably pretty good if it's $12 for sushi, to where you go, oh, that's far too cheap.
75 cents for a California roll.
I think it goes the other way. How much do they have to pay you to consume gas station? That's like the joke, right? Like, what did you get? Gas station sushi in the Midwest?
I mean, there was a California roll for $3.50, and I thought that can't be healthy and edible.
So some things to consider are not sushi does not mean raw fish. California roll means it's not raw fish.
Right. Fair.
So I think that for me anyway, that plays a part in it. Now that said, I wouldn't do it. You could ask my wife how funny I am about sushi. Like she wants to get sushi takeout sometimes, and I'm like, even for me, like I'm going to eat sushi there. I'm not even gonna I'm not gonna drive it in a car and eat it in 30 minutes. Like that's not gonna happen. I don't want that.
Yeah,
So I still wouldn't do it, but I can't come to a logical conclusion as to why.
You just have to assume that most places are doing their due diligence and they're refrigerating things for as long as they should, and they're throwing things out when they reach their expiration date. So it's like, it's the easy joke, but like it has to mostly be fine. But I still just can't bring myself.
You don't want to take the chance though.
You don't want to you know that it's the joke, and but it's probably going to actually be fine, but I can't bring myself to.
Yeah, I don't want to be the one that gets sick from it. Also, I had to jump in with a quick, slightly related childhood activities and wrestling. My wife and I were talking about owning trampolines as a kid, and we were explaining to our daughter, because Kory, your trampoline has the cage, the sort of netting around it. And we were explaining, yes, Uncle Kory's has net. When we were kids, that just wasn't a thing really yet, or it certainly wasn't. The average person didn't have the net on the trampoline. Now I think everyone buys them with the net, or that's just how they come. And my wife said, yeah, because actually when we got a trampoline when we were kids, in the first 15 minutes we had it set up, her brother's friend came over and fell off and like broke his arm or something, like the horror story people tell when they have a trampoline. And I said, well, I wish ours had a cage on it, because I used our trampoline almost exclusively for pretend wrestling, and every day would have been a cage match. And I get this look, and she just goes, what is wrong with you? Like, and the not understanding at all. I'm like, no, I used to take the cushions off my mom's lawn chairs, and I would like wrestle the cushions, and I had the plastic belts, and I would take those out onto the trampoline. If I had had the netting, it would have looked like a cage match. It would have been awesome. Still didn't.
Kendall, this was for hours. He would do this. He'd put the cushions in the moves. Like, the cushions were the opponent, and he was putting them in the moves and hitting them with the belt. And like,
I love it.
Yeah, imagine when you're 4 or 5 feet, and it's the cushions that are the full. They're not two pieces. They're a full cushion. So like the part that you sit on is like the upper body, and then
so it's like
part that's the back is like the legs. So you could like do the rock, like you know, take the belts and you hit them over the head with it, and it was awesome. And so the netting would have just made it like a cage match all the time.
Oh
like
man,
never-ending cage match.
Yeah. This is the thing, man. Our wives just don't. It is just that they don't get it. They think that when we like it or want to watch it or talk about it, they think that it's tongue in cheek, and it's no, like we actually like it.
We want to watch.
It's not just ironic liking. Like we actually, it's like actually cool. Like, well, don't you know it's fake? Well, yes, we understand that it's fake, but don't call it that.
Yeah.
It's soap operas. It's soap operas. It's the same thing.
I still think it would be a really fun Lego theme for them to do a rink with a bunch of minifigures and then do like backstage areas.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to make the most brutal weapons as accessories to the Lego. It could just be like a chair or a dumpster or something like that you could put with Lego minifigure wrestlers and do like WWF Classic and like WWE Modern and just make minifigs that look like all the wrestlers. Anyway,
yeah. It's if you've ever cried in a rom-com or like enjoyed yourself at Disney on Ice, like you ought to understand why boys and some of us who never grew up like wrestling. Same thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the shows that are positioned as though they're real. What was that Laguna Beach show? It was like teens and young 20s, and it was like the OC or something like that, or like those are all filmed as though they're reality shows, but they're clearly scripted like soap opera-y. So I'm just trying to think of the close example.
I think there's probably I think the reality TV world is rife with examples. We're just not necessarily aware of them because we're not fans necessarily of a bunch of that stuff. I feel like very often I hear about some Reddit or something where a former contestant like started jabbering about like what things were like backstage and how scripted a lot of this stuff actually is.
Yeah.
And or at the very least heavily influenced, and producers digging for the gut-wrenching stories out of people and those kinds of things.
I think a lot of those, I think the situations are crafted, and whether all the dialogue is or not, I think they're put in positions where, you know, a producer can say, oh, did you hear what so-and-so said right before they left? And that gets the personal.
Yeah.
But I will say, sometimes when you know they're not scripted, this literally happened walking in here. Sometimes my wife will find herself watching this kinds of shows, and I hear this dialogue as I'm grabbing my root beer. I hear one of the people on this show reality show say brewskis. And somebody says, what's brewskis? And they say, it's like a beer, like grab some brewskis. And the other person's like, I've never heard anyone say that before. And somebody goes, I think that's a northern thing. And then the first person says, who's explained brewskis to this girl from Alabama, well, I say brewskis. She's like, yeah, but you're from the north. And the third person goes, he's from South Carolina. And so moments like that where I just go, oh, and like, then he's like, you think South Carolina's in the north? And she's like, well, yeah, because she's from Alabama. Then you realize moments like that. I'm like, that's not, nobody could come up with the line, yeah, I think South Carolina's in the north. That's never came up in a real conversation ever before, that anyone has ever convinced someone from South Carolina of being, quote, from the north. That's not a thing.
It's so cringy though, those Big Brother-y type shows where they've got people from all over the world that are sharing a house for like that first week, and they come, you call fries chips? Like those,
yeah.
All we talk about are the differences. Canada, milk in bags? What?
Yeah. Guys, play up the differences. Milk and bags thing. Somebody bring that up, and then somebody needs to like think it's unbelievable.
One of you's racist. Here's somebody that's a minority. Isn't this hilarious? The wrestling nostalgia thing. Jeremy Kester, one of the Midlers, sent a video to our Instagram that was like, "Where are they now?" And it was set to music, and all of the clips were slow motion. And it was showing like the most iconic wrestlers in the 80s and 90s, and then like photos of them now. And some of them, it's wonderful. Like they're still in shape and they're still alive. And others, not so much. I got emotional watching this montage of like, where are they now and how many have passed? And it's just like seeing them in their heyday when you watched. You used to look up to them like these heroes, and something about it was just so endearing to us as young kids. Anyway, I'll share that to our socials if I can find it. But yeah, good stuff.
Well, speaking of,
I've
got to say, speaking of nostalgia and things we've been watching, did either of you watch the Oscars, or have you read it?
I did. I watched them in their entirety, much to my surprise.
Kory doesn't want to know who won.
No, it's fine. You can spoil it. I just watched I watched the Chris Rock special where he talked about last year. So
yeah,
well,
good.
I'll say this: anyone that cares has already watched or looked up the winners. We don't need to go through the awards. I'll say a few passing comments, and then Kendall can weigh in. First of all, an MCU movie won an Oscar. Yes, it was for costumes, but it doesn't matter. it was an Oscar, which was very exciting. Banshees of Inisherin, which we talked about last year on the podcast, is not winning as many awards, but was still nominated.
It was nominated a whole ton,
a whole lot. And we were kind of hot off some of the award talk because we talked about that one. We talked about All Quiet on the Western Front, which got some awards. And a new one, the whole reason, because we've said it year after year, we don't watch the Oscars because we care about Hollywood life and celeb culture. We like movies, and this is a good place to go get exposed to movies and clips and with people that we wouldn't have found otherwise. And now I've got to go watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, or Everywhere Everything All at Once. And the reason I said the nostalgia thing, if you don't know what that movie's about, it's sort of a over-the-top comedy drama, really great cast. But our buddy, is it Hee Wong? I'm going to get that all wrong. Hui
from Encino Man.
Who was in his first movie was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom as Short Round. He was in Encino Man with Brendan Fraser. And two things that were really nostalgia inducing tonight. Harrison Ford got to announce an award, and he got to run up and give Harrison Ford a hug, which was a really sweet moment if you're a fan of Indiana Jones. And he was in Encino Man with Brendan Fraser, and Brendan Fraser also won an award. His first he's ever been nominated for an Oscar, and he's having a little bit of a renaissance right now, and I'm loving it because I like Brendan Fraser, and I think he's a good dude. And so there were several moments that I thought were great. I was super excited for Michelle Yeoh to win an Oscar. She's been acting in action films forever. She freaking deserves an Academy Award. Brendan Fraser, people can debate whether they think he deserves it. I think he's such a good guy. He deserves it. And
if you don't like Brendan Fraser, you're heartless. Like
you kind of are.
You don't have to be a fan of his acting, but like if you know the guy and don't like the guy, there's a problem with you.
I don't think you really know the guy then. I think
I guess we say this and we've never met him, but
right. But by all accounts of everyone who knows him in every interview that I've ever watched with him, it's kind of one of those things.
But he was talked about for a long time by others in Hollywood as the guy in the early 90s who was handsome and in these sort of like college-y sort of comedies. And then sort of like he had those other roles, but he wasn't taking big A-list, big budget movie roles. He was taking The Mummy Returns and stuff like that. And so he was like getting these like less than sort of like B, C list roles. And not that it was like explicitly made fun of, but he was like, oh, remember how big he was. And now he's just doing these movies. For him to come full circle and do a role like he did in The Whale. And by the way, anything A24 is doing, that studio is killing it. Like
they're crushing it right now.
Hit after hit after hit after hit. Like a lot of the movies that we're all talking about here are A24 movies. So like all these movies are killing it. And so for him to do a role like Whale, something that's serious and he really committed to it, I think he had prosthetics and there's some like stuff going on. He did for real gain a ton of weight for that role. Good for him, man. I think that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So those were a couple highlights. Some people were roasting Jimmy Kimmel for his opening monologue. Honestly, I think he just made fun of the Academy and the celebrities, kind of like all the regular people in America want the Oscars to have a little more self-awareness. I think that was kind of his theme.
And I feel like that's what the award show host almost always does these days.
Not at a Ricky Gervais level where he's calling them all pedos and like, whatever. But like at a level that Jimmy Kimmel would do, I thought it was fine. So, anyways, it was one of the nicer Oscars I've seen recently.
It was.
I enjoyed not having stupid slap drama. I enjoyed seeing people like Ke Huy Quan, Brendan Fraser, Michelle Yeoh win some awards. some cool movies. I still submit that they need a blockbuster award because I think they need something. They need something for the Top Gun Mavericks of the world. You know, that movie basically brought people back to the theaters in droves. They need something like that for the Avengers Endgame, for the Avatar, for the Star Wars. But outside of that, I thought it was one of the better Academy Awards recently. So, anyways,
I agree. Of the ones I've seen, and then of the ones that like I always go back and like rewatch some stuff if I didn't see it. And this one was refreshing to me in a lot of ways. It was not very soapboxy by the speech givers, which was so. I think that Hollywood may be getting the memo that we don't want them to preach to us. And the self-awareness stuff and everything, like you said, Dillon, was there because, like, again, like, to put it strongly, there are professions and jobs in this world that like cure diseases and that kind of thing. These people's jobs is literally to keep us from getting too bored. Like, just, I don't want to be bored. Do something about that. Like, that's what your job is. And there was a couple, like, one guy was, I don't even remember what it was for or who he was, but he was doing an acceptance speech and was talking about like changing the lives of people during his acceptance speech. And I was paying about half attention. My wife was on the couch next to me, and I'm like, is this the guy who invented the COVID vaccine? And she sarcastically was like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what the big fucking deal is. But no, I said that to be funny. And in part, I take this posture in an extreme way to be funny. But there is truth to it. Like, and because that was so milder on this Oscars, and the politics was so milder on this Oscars, I found it to be a guy who hates the Oscars enjoyed watching the Oscars. Could have changed the channel at any moment and didn't do it.
Yep.
So the main thing I view it for, and I've said this before every time it comes up every year. And somebody made a good point, by the way. They're like, it used to be that the only way that we could like see celebrities not in a movie or on a talk show was to watch the Oscars, and you got to see how they interact with one another. Now, because you follow them on Instagram, if you're a fan of Brendan Fraser, you see him every day. You know what his living room looks like. Like, you know what meal he just had. Like, you don't need to watch the Oscars for that like glimpse into their lives anymore, because you're already sort of following them on social. So that used to be one of the main things I enjoyed, was like, oh, seeing Al Pacino shake Jim Carrey's hand. Like, oh, that's so cool. It looks like they're having a good conversation. They'd never be in a movie together. Somebody's going to tweet us like the movie that they were in together. But anyway, but the other thing I would watch for is really just my punch list of movies that I was going to watch for the next couple months. Like, that one looked interesting. That's what I would do with it. Same with the Grammys. Like, oh, well, whose albums do I need to check out? Because I don't know, right? So I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. It's DVR'd at home. I'm going to watch when I get back.
It's good. That's it. It's all the Oscars jab I have.
All right. Sounds good. This is a good place to wrap it up.
Yes, wrap it.
All right. Well, I am wearing a gilet. Do you know what a gilet is?
Don't show us. Whatever it is.
Apparently, that's the term for what we call puffy vests. I'm wearing a gilet. I'm also wearing restoration scented beard balm. And if you want to get some beard balm, they don't have gilets, but they do have beard balm, beard butter, beard oils, wooden combs, scented candles, and amazing stuff. Go to artiusman.com. That's ARTIUSMAN.com. Use promo code The Middle, all one word, The Middle, at checkout to get 25% off, men's grooming products that are locally made by a reputable company and a good guy using all natural products. Go check it out, artiusman.com, for the best men's grooming stuff on planet Earth. And we would appreciate that. They would appreciate that. And you will appreciate that when the loved one in your life smells your facial hair and says, wow, your beard smells so good, I could eat it. Anything else, guys?
I don't think so.
All right.
No.
Catch you next week.
Goodbye.
Toodles.